Hello, and welcome to this video lecture on library resources and information literacy skills brought to you by the Queen Mary Library Services team. This video has been produced for the Queen Mary Technology, Media and Telecommunications Law Distance Learning Residential Weekend, June 2020. Due to the coronavirus outbreak in 2020, this event will ironically be held online. In this video lecture, I want to give you a very brief overview of some of the key library resources available to you as Queen Mary Technology, Media and Telecommunications Law distance learning students. And I also want to highlight some of the key skills, what we call in the library trade information literacy skills, which will help you to make the most of these resources. Because a good level of competency in these resources and skills will be essential in the successful completion of your studies. For example, you should find the resources and skills I will be talking about in this video useful when it comes to the successful completion of a dissertation, a research seminar paper, essays for your taught modules, and for legal research in general. This video could potentially have a diverse audience. Students who hold law degrees, students who don't have law degrees but have a lot of legal experience, students with no law degrees and no legal experience but with a degree, professional experience in a field relevant to the program, and so on. And of course, the students watching this video could be at almost any point in a multi-year TMT law course. Hopefully, there should be something of interest and use for everyone in this video. I've tried to include a broad range of useful hints and tips from my Queen Mary Library Services point of view. First things first, introductions. My name is Rich Evans, and I am the Faculty Liaison Librarian for Humanities and Social Sciences with responsibility for law at Queen Mary. That's me to left of middle of the slide. I work in the Queen Mary Library Services, Humanities and Social Sciences Teaching and Learning Support team, where I am ably supported by my team colleagues. Martin Beeson, the Faculty Liaison Librarian for Humanities and Social Sciences, who looks after geography and politics and international relations, and two information assistant colleagues, Jacques Rogers and Anthea Chow. Our job is basically to help students and staff to get the most out of what Queen Mary Library Services has to offer, hence this video. What do I mean when I say information literacy skills? Well, in library services, we consider three key areas of information literacy to be the skills to find information, use that information, for example, evaluating it, reference information. So information literacy skills are research skills, or are at least a significant subset of research skills. These are skills that TMT law students must have in order to locate, use, and reference the information that will underpin their studies and researches effectively. Library Services is committed to helping students to develop information literacy skills. Now, the good news is that you will already have started to develop these skills. Some of you may feel very confident in your information literacy, but we in Library Services know from experience that there are certain aspects of information literacy, elements of referencing and plagiarism, for example, which are perennial and unnecessary points of concern for students at all levels. Queen Mary Library Services is here to help. And in this video, I want to use these information literacy skills as a framework on which to hang a showcase of some key library resources. So, finding information. We live in an age of information proliferation. Finding and accessing information is easy, but finding and accessing not only high quality, but high quality and relevant information is as hard as it has ever been. I know that Queen Mary makes sure that distance learning students have access to all materials necessary for their courses, and that you will have been supplied with materials, law, rules, conventions, reading lists, full text articles and cases via QM+. But this is only part of the story. Remember that you have also been given access to web materials via Queen Mary Library Services, and you will need to make use of these. When it comes to studying and researching the law, there is no one-stop shop. No one resource, even the high-quality resources that we will look at in this video, will give you all the material you need. Different resources will help you to find and access different information and will offer you different functionality to do so. Queen Mary Library Services is here to help you to make an informed choice when selecting where to search for information. We're also here to help with the practicalities of how to search for information. You'll need to spend time thinking about the information you want to find, to answer a research question perhaps. Where will you find this information? In what sources? What resources will you use to find and access these sources, etc. The type of information you require, the purpose to which you wish to put that information will affect which sources you need to find and access. There are sources you need to find and access will affect where and how you look for these materials, what resources you use. So, if there is no one-stop shop, where do you go to find and access the material you need? Well, here are our suggestions from Queen Mary Library Services. Not comprehensive, but are based on our library experience and should prove a useful starting point. Queen Mary Library search tools, such as the Queen Mary Library Services online catalogue. In the olden days, it would have helped you to find books on the shelves in a library, which it still does. Nowadays, it does so much more. It can help you to locate and access material in many of library services' online collections too, e-books, e-journal articles, and so on. This makes the online catalogue a great initial tool to help you start navigating the library services collections. However, remember, there is no one-stop shop, and the online catalogue will not find everything that Queen Mary Library Services has to offer for various reasons I won't go into now. You will need to use a range of resources, such as databases, and Queen Mary Library Services provides access to a range of databases. Law databases. Databases are basically the platforms that host the majority of the online content that a library such as Queen Mary Library Services makes available. Different databases will help you to access different types of information, and when it comes to legal information, the two big databases in the UK are Lexis and Westlaw. These are not the only players in terms of legal materials, but they are essential resources and they are also practitioner tools. Queen Mary Library Services, other university libraries, law firms pay a lot of money so that our members can access law databases like Lexis and Westlaw. Why? Because they produce and make available high quality exclusive content, content which is not available anywhere else but on their platform, certainly not available for free and most definitely not available on a rival platform. Westlaw and Lexis occupy the same niche in the UK. They provide high quality legal materials to students, academics, practitioners, and are so very competitive. This is part of the reason why there is no one-stop shop in the law. Because if you only use one resource, even a high quality resource like Lexis, you may be missing important information that is only available via Westlaw, for example. Other databases. But remember, you may not find all you need via specifically law databases. You may need to understand and explain the law in a broader political, economic, social context, for example. So you will need to be willing to explore databases in other subject areas, helping you find and access different types of information. Google. Perhaps you're surprised to see me include Google here, but nowadays a lot of potentially useful information is made available for free online. Open access, as we call it. For example, the UK government has a commitment to transparency and makes legislation and other documents available to us, the public, for free online. Now, perhaps you'll access this type of open access data directly via a dedicated website, like a government website. Or perhaps you'll find and access it via a search engine such as Google. If you do the latter, you need to have your critical faculties working at 100%. Getting down to practicalities. Where can you find and access some of the resources I've just highlighted? As distance learning students, your points of contact with Queen Mary Library Services will very likely be online. Library Services has a very strong presence on QM+, the Queen Mary virtual learning environment, of which as distance learners I expect you have already made a great deal of use. To access what we call the library landing page in QM+, you can click on the library landing page link in the QM+ footer at the bottom of every QM+ page. You'll find lots of useful information via the Library Services QM+ landing page, but I feel that perhaps your main point of contact with Queen Mary Library Services will be via the Queen Mary Library website, www.library.qmul.ac.uk. Again, you can find loads of useful library services information via the website. You can also find here the main portals to our collections, hence the online catalogue. You can find a selection of databases that Queen Mary Library Services makes available via the Library Law Subject Guide, accessible via the Subject Guides tab on the library website. Here we've brought together potentially useful resources, contact details, other libraries information and more which we feel will be of special interest to our law students. Hopefully you'll find it a useful launchpad to your studies and researches. However, remember that all the resources that Queen Mary Library Services makes available are accessible to you. So please don't feel constrained to only use law resources via the Law Subject Guide. For example, feel free to explore other subject guides, politics and international relations, history, film, electronic engineering and computer science, and so on. One database I would find if I went to the Law Subject Guide is Westlaw. Westlaw is one of the big law databases in the UK. So I'm going to look at some key find it information literacy skills in the context of the Westlaw interface. Here we have a case citation for a case that could potentially be of interest in relation to issues of privacy, online media regulation, and so on. It relates to the leaking of a sex tape. In your research, you'll very often find yourself using reference lists or bibliographies and so on to identify references or citations to sources which you can then search for in library services collections and resources. But where do we go to look for information on this case? Well, for authoritative, up-to-date, high-quality legal information, we should probably go straight to a law database. Lexis and Westlaw provide access to a wide range of legal materials, primary and secondary sources, and I'm going to take a look at Westlaw. And this citation gives me information I need to locate and access information on this case. For example, I have the case name at the start of the citation, which is composed of the party names, or I have the details of the law report where the judgment was reported at the end of the citation. But here I'm going to use the neutral citation, highlighted in red, which gives me useful information such as the year of judgment, the court the case was heard in, and the judgment number. So I'm going to go to the Cases tab in Westlaw. I go to the library website, www.library.qmul.ac.uk. I go to the Subject Guides tab. I go to the Law Subject Guide. I go to the Law Databases page. I select the link to Westlaw, at which point I'll usually be asked to log in using my Queen Mary ITS username and password. This time I go to the Cases tab, although Westlaw offers a number of search options, and I input my neutral citation information into the citation search box. No need for any of those square brackets in the citation and so on. I hit the search button. It's a very focused search, as I only get one result. It's possible, especially with less focused searches, that you might get a lot of results while searching for material in law databases. If this happens, make the most of the filter functionality to the left of the page. Here we can filter by topic and so on, or even use search within results to refine our search. I click on the link in the results list to access information relating to my case. I focused here on case law, but I feel the principles, if not the details, apply when using citations or references to search for legislation, journal articles, and so on. However, you may not always have citations or references to specific sources which you are looking for. Sometimes you will need to find information on a specific topic or subject, perhaps the topic of a dissertation or research paper which you have chosen for yourselves. Because you want to be sure that you have the knowledge and understanding to tackle your topic well, you will want to be confident that you have found as much relevant information on your research topic as is available. Okay, so being able to search by citations is part of being able to find as much relevant information on the topic as is available. But I feel that the key to feeling confident that you have found as much relevant material on your topic as is available is the ability to come up with search terms, keywords and phrases which relate to the topic you are researching, which can then be repurposed as search terms and plugged into some of the resources we look at in this video and which will retrieve information on that topic. Let's have a look at a bit of a worked example using the topic of misuse of private information. So I might have a topic research question like this one. To what extent are legal remedies for misuse of private information effective? This might be related to the sex tape case we were talking about earlier. I take this topic, this question, and I identify the key concepts. What key concepts do I need to understand in order to answer this question? So, misuse of private information. This is a key concept, and it's also going to be a strong search term. I could also maybe identify MOPI. It's not in the question, but it is certainly a term related to misuse of private information, as it is a widely used contraction of that phrase. You could call it a synonym, a term with similar or identical meaning. At all events, if you turn MOPI into a search term, it will retrieve useful information on my topic to help me answer my question. And of course, there are other related concepts, terms, sometimes not in the topic or question, which are related to my topic and so might help me find useful information when used as search terms. When it comes to searching for information on a subject, putting these search terms into resources such as a library catalogue or database, I can't just cram in all my search terms, hit search and hope for the best. It just won't work. I'll confuse the search and get too many or too few search results. I need to search in a smart way. Now, no two resources share identical functionality, but here are a few fairly universal tips which should help you to start what I call smart searching across a range of resources. As I said, don't overload the search with too many search terms. Use single words or short phrases. Keep what we call your search string clear and unconfused. If you are searching for a phrase, such as gagging order, put it in quotations. If you imagine a Venn diagram, all the articles containing the word gagging on one hand and all the articles with the word order on the other, you can see there will be a lot of potentially weird articles. Somewhere in the middle of that Venn diagram will be articles containing the phrase gagging order, which we are interested in. If you use the quotation marks, then you focus in on these articles. You can add more search terms to your search string, but you must do this in a smart way. You can do this by using Boolean operators, which is just a fancy name for connecting words such as and. By linking misuse of private information and remedy with and, I tell the search to search them together, not individually. I focus my search. Remember what I said about different functionality in different resources. In Westlaw, we use the ampersand instead of and. The first three tips help you to focus your search by and large, but you can also broaden it if you're not finding enough information on your subject, for example. My first tip to broaden your search: think about spelling. Misspelt search terms help no one, but also think of the fact that there may be more than one valid spelling variant of your search term or search terms out there. Different spelling conventions pertain in different territories, for example. If I only use one spelling variant, am I missing useful information from another territory, perhaps? Most resources will autocorrect for spelling variations, but not all of them and not all the time. Just be aware, in case you get fewer results than you're expecting. You can broaden your search in a controlled way by using the OR operator. If I connect injunction and gagging order with the OR operator, I tell the database, catalog, or whatever to search for these two terms together and individually. Why would I want to do this? Well, injunction, gagging order could be considered synonyms, terms with similar or identical meanings. If I only search for one term, I might find one set of useful articles, let's say. If I search for the other, I might find an equally useful but different set of articles. By linking them with OR, I search them together and individually, potentially finding both sets of articles. A last tip to help you broaden your search: put an asterisk at the end of what we call the root of a word, and most resources will automatically fill in any pertinent ending to that word. So defend asterisk becomes defend, defense, defendant, etc. It can be a great way to broaden your search without overloading your search string with too many search terms. Again, we have different functionality in Lexis and Westlaw where the exclamation mark is used for this purpose. So in practical terms, how do I use these tips to help me find material on the subject? Let's have another look at Westlaw. What I call the Westlaw Basic Search, which you'll find on the Westlaw homepage, searches across Westlaw. It can retrieve a wide range of source types. So I can input some of my search terms, use some smart search tips, and do a search. You'll get a pop-up box containing a list of connectors you can use if you click on the I in the search box. Moving on, the TMT law courses have an international nature, both in terms of content and also in terms of the student body. So I just want to quickly give you some tips for locating international materials in our old friend Westlaw and also in Lexis, because the iterations of Westlaw and Lexis that Queen Mary Library Services make available are those designed for the UK market, and they can appear to have a predominantly UK focus. However, our versions of Westlaw and Lexis do give you access to international materials, but it's not always easy to locate these materials. Accessing EU content in Westlaw is actually fairly easy. Click on the EU tab on the Westlaw homepage and you'll get what Westlaw call a search template, not dissimilar to that found under other Westlaw tabs, such as the Cases tab, which we have looked at already. So why bother to highlight it? Well, because it is a relatively new development and replaces a much more complex method to access EU content in Westlaw. So it's a very welcome enhancement. A good way to access international materials via Westlaw is to select the International option from the Region drop-down menu, which you will find at the top left-hand corner of the Westlaw page. It can be easy to overlook, hidden away up there. In Lexis too, it can sometimes be hard to locate international content unless you know the trick. But once you know the trick, it's fairly easy. So if I were to go to Lexis, I would go to the Sources tab on the home page and then click on the International Content link. And I get to Lexis Library International. You'll also find links to international content under the Cases, Legislation, and Journals tabs in Lexis. I've talked briefly about how you will get different results in Westlaw to those you will get in Lexis and vice versa. Remember, there is no one-stop shop. And remember too that although Westlaw and Lexis are important resources, they are not the only law databases in town. Also, you need to consider that you may not find all the information you need via just law databases. In this video, we've been looking at searching for materials very much in the legal context, but you may find yourself needing to consider information from a wider context, and this might require you to use different resources. Often you'll want to find as much relevant information on the subject as possible, so you'll need to be willing to use a range of resources. And you can find a range of potentially useful databases via the Queen Mary Library Law Subject Guide. And don't forget to check out the subject guides of other subjects if they seem relevant. If you search across a range of relevant individual databases and the Queen Mary Library Services online catalogue and other resources, then perhaps you can start to feel fairly confident that you are at least beginning to find as much relevant information as is available on the subject. You need to know which databases will satisfy your information needs and how to use them well in order to extract the information you need efficiently. Queen Mary Library Services is here to help. In fact, hopefully, I've contributed to the process via this video. You'll also find links to online training and support for a range of databases on the subject guides, databases pages too. A bit of really practical advice here. If you're accessing online resources such as databases via Queen Mary Library Services, especially off-campus as distance learners, you may need to authenticate in order to access the full content they provide. This will be because the Queen Mary Library Services will be paying so that you can have access to these resources, and so you need to prove to the resource in question that you are a member of the Queen Mary Library and you have the right to see their content. You could do that through a login box like this. Your Queen Mary login is your Queen Mary ITS username and password, same as you use for QM+. It can be difficult to find these login boxes. If I Google a database like Lexis, I'll find their web page, but before I log in, I can't access content. And it can be difficult to find the login link, and when I do find the login link, very often I'm presented with a long list of authentication protocols and I have to choose the relevant one. If you access the online resources made available via Queen Mary Library via the library website, you'll usually be prompted as and when necessary with this login box. It makes the authentication process a lot more easy. So I've highlighted the need to use a range of resources, and we've considered the range of resources that Queen Mary Library Services make available. But these days, a lot of potentially useful information is made available for free online as well. open access as we call it. For example, Cardiff Index to Legal Abbreviations, free online tool for looking up the meaning of abbreviations for English language legal publications from the British Isles, the Commonwealth and the United States. Some major non-English language publications are included too. Legislation.gov.uk, official home of revised enacted UK legislation, though it may not always be up to date. Bailey.org, free access to British and Irish legal materials, also contains links to world law resources. Eurlex, free access to European Union primary and secondary material. Now, perhaps you'll find and access this type of open access information via a dedicated website, such as those I've highlighted, or perhaps you'll use a search engine such as Google. I'm not going to tell you not to use Google, but you need to know the strengths and weaknesses of Google in order to use it effectively. Its strength is it searches, indexes, and retrieves a vast amount of information online. A weakness is there is a lot of rubbish online and it is a very simple search. Its beauty is its simplicity, but this can be a liability. It can retrieve more rubbish than useful material. Equally, I would urge caution, perhaps a different type of caution, if you're using Google Scholar. Google Scholar uses a more scholarly focused variant of the Google search, and so can be used to find more scholarly material and can be a useful resource. But remember, there is no one-stop shop and you won't find all the material you need via Google Scholar. That was a fairly protracted excursion into Find It. Let's have a brief look at Use It, information literacy skills, a significant proportion of which relate to being able to evaluate information. We all know the importance of evaluating all the information we discover. Often you will be undertaking independent work, finding information for yourself, your own specific information needs by yourself, away from the old safety nets of prescribed text and module reading lists. You need to be confident in your evaluation skills. There are many tools which can help you with the evaluation process. The most powerful tool is you and your critical faculties, represented by these evaluation criteria. I won't run through all of these criteria. I'm sure you've seen them before and use them and others like them every day. As TMT law students, as well as being able to evaluate material in a general sense, you also need to be able to identify what legal authority a source has. For example, you may need to know whether a statute is still in force or whether it has been repealed. This can be difficult as the law is constantly changing. Acts are constantly being enacted, amended, repealed. But nowadays, in the digital age, legal information can be made available online and can be updated very quickly, and many of the commercial resources, such as Lexis and Westlaw, will also provide functionality which will help you to evaluate some of the legal information they make available. For example, if we look at the Human Rights Act 1998 in Lexis and click on the arrangement of the Act, you can see that there is a big orange exclamation mark at the top of the page, partly in force with prospective appointments and/or amendments. This type of functionality makes understanding and navigating the law easier. There is similar functionality in other resources and also similar functionality that can help you work out how a case has been treated, for example. Our last key aspect of information literacy, referencing skills. There are different referencing cultures and conventions around the world. In the UK and at Queen Mary, if you use the work of others in your work, you must give credit where credit is due. If you do not, you lay yourself open to claims of plagiarism, fabricating evidence, big trouble. A way to avoid these claims is to reference fully and honestly. You build a link between your work and the work you have used so that your readers can trace where the ideas, the information you have reused in your work have come from. There are many ways or styles of building these links. In the UK, one of the top referencing styles for law is OSCOLA, the Oxford University Standards for Citation of Legal Authorities. Both the main OSCOLA guide and the guide for citing international law sources are available for free online. The Harvard referencing style may also be an option, and I'll show you where you can get information on that style in just a second. Referencing can be tough. So Queen Mary Library Services makes available a number of tools to help you with the referencing process. You can find information on both theory and practicalities of referencing in a wide range of styles, including OSCOLA and Harvard, in the library's Find It, Use It, Reference It module on QM+. Similarly, you'll find in Find It, Use It, Reference It information on other information literacy skills, such as I've been talking about in this video. Queen Mary Library Services also makes available a tool called Cite Them Right Online. It's basically an interactive ebook which will help you to formulate your citations or references as you put them into your work. Again, it covers OSCLA and Harvard. But if you are in real doubt when it comes to referencing, I would suggest you ask for further guidance from your module tutor. So we've worked our way through the three aspects of information literacy I highlighted towards the start of the lecture. Find it, use it, reference it. So we're nearly at the end of this video lecture. But remember, it's not all about this video. You can find loads of useful Queen Mary Library Services information and support online, as I have hopefully shown you, via the website, subject guides, QM+, and so on. And of course, for subject-specific library inquiries, please feel free to get in contact with the Humanities and Social Sciences Teaching and Learning Support team. Here are our contact details. So I thank you for your attention, and I wish you the best of luck in your researches.